The Dreamer by Pam Minos-Ryan and Peter Sis. Within the hour, Father Spears pounded under the floorboards, his big voice full in the house. Azwisti, I'm here. He blew the consort's whistle. Naphtali, Rodolfo, and Rhodey Dunn rushed to stand in front of him. They held their hands flat and turned their palms into inspection. Naphtali's were still pink from the vicious scrubbing. Satisfactory, Father nodded and then headed toward the dining room. The door opened again, and the men began to flow into the house. Regular workers, shopkeepers, even a traveling merchant who had been waylaid over a night ago. Father poured the big drinks from the cyber and assigned everyone seat. Naphtali sat in his chair and with his back posture and studied his plate, avoiding any of the guests' eyes. He pushed the tablecloth aside and looked longly underneath. If only he could escape to the jolly company of boots. Father sat at the head of the table, jovial and generous to the guests, passing around the stories as easily as he passed around Il Pom and Matsu, the homemade brand. He told tales about Persian horses, pampas in the world, and the Machiv Indians. What is the current situation with the Machiv? Said the merchant. We were trying to move them out of the area, said the shopkeeper. But many will not listen. These are the difficult time for those who were trying to develop the land and make a nice community here in Tumago. Uncle Orlando cleared his throat. The Metropi people have lived there hundreds of years. Why should they leave their homeland? He had a fire in his belly and a determination in his eyes. Naphtali, aware how much Uncle never had laid a problem speaking out about what he thought was right or wrong. Could Naphtali ever have the confidence to the same? Their presence is undesirable, said the shopkeeper. They do not want to conform to the ways for the townspeople. The Machubi cannot even read. The shopkeeper must put up a sign shaped like a giant shoe above the toy store, and sign it up like a giant hammer above the hardware store, a giant key for the locksmith. It's absorbed. And all this so they could know which of the buildings is which? That is true, I thought Naphtali. He had even those fairy signs. The giant shoe was his favorite. And what's wrong with that? Said Uncle Arando. Why do we not learn a little of their language? We came to their land. Why should they think as we think? Why should they give up everything I have known for generations? Naphtali considered Uncle Orando's words. He could not imagine being pushed from his own home, and without his books and his collections, not to mention living at school and the river cotton. His eyes followed the conservation from the man to the other. Their voices grew sharper which is response. It is a progress, said the shopkeeper. For me, it is a business, nothing more, nothing less. Nothing less than greed, said Uncle Orlando. You're thinking as thick as a nut. Wait a moment, said the shopkeeper, studying Uncle Orlando. I know who you are. You're the one who lends La Manila, the newspaper that published articles in favor of Machupi. Uncle Orlando stood up. Naphtali's eyes grew wide as fear. The shopkeeper was much larger than Uncle Orlando. Gentlemen, this is the family dinner, said Father. We will discuss the Machupi at the one more appreciate time. Uncle Orlando sat down and folded his arms across the chest. The shopkeeper speared his meat with his fork and ate it. He chewed vigorously, his eyes starting from one person to the next. No one said a word. When Madra rose from the table, her chair scraped the floor, breaking an uncomfortable silence. Father pointed at the once worker. Tell the children about the beetle you found yesterday. Naphtali sat up the little cider and trained to hear. I found it a lemon tree. It looked like a living jewel wearing many fantastic colors. Pink, green, purple, and silver. And when I tried to catch the thing, it zipped away. One moment then it was there and he went. Next, poof. They nodded at the Naphtali. Young man, have you ever been to the forest? All eyes turned to Naphtali. He must answer when others spoke to him. But his skin felt as if it were tightening and blood rushed to his cheeks. The word could not escape. He tried again. Father shifted in his chair. His face reddened. Do not pay attention to him. He is absent-minded. And he spends so much time in idle thought he can barely speak. There is no telling that what will become of him. Naphtali sat with his eyes cast down. He paused. Was he breathing? He could not tell. There is nothing wrong with his little idle thoughts, said Uncle Orlando. And perhaps he needs a flight outdoors, and the trip is a great first, then where he can focus on what is real, this beautiful land and its people, before a devil opener tries to change it. He glanced at Naphtali. Nephew, wouldn't you like it? Wouldn't you not? Naphtali lifted his eyes slightly and nodded. Father grunted. Maybe next year, when he was not so feeble. He turned to Mamadra. Let us take a coffee. Children, you're excused. Grateful to be released, Naphtali slid over his chair and ran into his room. There, with a muffled voice and with grown-ups in the background, he paused before his collections. He straightened into the rows of rocks, twigs, and nests, touching each item as if taking attendance. Father's world echoed. Absent-minded, absent-minded. It did not make sense. How could he be absent-minded when his head was so crowded with thoughts? He opened the drawer and unfolded a piece of paper and said. Then he read the words, mouthing each one perfectly. Before he replaced them, he added one more, Luma. Later, as he lay in his bed, Naphtali tried to imagine the beetle of a Luma tree. The one that looks like a living jewel could not disappear in a blink of one eye. Father's word haunted him. Naphtali wished that he would disappear as fast as a colorful beetle in the one proof, so he too could discover what could become to him. What is the color of a minute? A month? A year? I am poetry. I am poetry, lurking a dappled shadow. I am the confusion of root and golden branch. I am the symmetry of insect, leaf, and a bird's outstretched wings. Forest. Those are weeds, Naphtali, said Rodolfo. Not flowers. Now come. If you make me late for school again, I will tell father. And today I could not feel like running. Naphtali stopped picking out tiny blossoms that made the spring air smell peppery. He stopped this once and collected in the pocket and hurried towards Rodolfo. Surprise! Rodolfo put his hands on his hips and stared at him. So, today you're listening to me? I do not want to take any trouble. Only 3 more days until father takes me on the train in the forest. I am old enough now. I am 8. I'm strong enough too. He held up his arm and tried to make a muscle. Rodolfo pulled his coat tighter around him. Good for you. I don't care if I ever go back. That is because you get to the father all the time. What did you see last week? Rodolfo didn't answer. He just took on Naphtali's hand, looked straight ahead, and pulled him toward the school. Birds? Did you see birds? Naphtali persists. Rodolfo sighed. Yes, I saw birds. I even saw the Tamago Cuchaco. timid Kuchaku, and Mr. Kuchaku Bird gave me a warning. Naftali tugged at Rodolfo's hand, stopping him. How did you know that I was Kuchaku Bird? Easy. Its call sounded like the name. Chukal. It is a tiny bird that throws the color of copper. But this sight is deceiving. It has a very loud voice. Did you hear one like side or on your left? On my left, said Rodolfo. Did you have a bad luck? Rodolfo scurried around with his boot. A beat. But if you heard a call on your left, why didn't you turn around? Naftali quickly faced another direction. So, that is a bird on your right? Then Rodolfo have a good luck. Rodolfo rolled his eyes. There's only one antidote to the warning, and that is not to take off a piece of warning, a hat, a shoe, your shirt, and immediately put it back on. If you do not anything, you erase the bad luck. I took off my hat. Did you ever say it quickly enough? Did it erase your bad luck? Rodolfo frowned. Most of it. It was a dark cloud had descended upon Rodolfo. He took Naftali's hand and tucked him around his skull again. Oh, sorry. What happened? Did you get stung by the hornet? It is not important. What else do you see in the forest then? Asked Naftali. Rodolfo ignored him. You must say there's something. Eagles? Did you see eagles? That is not what my father. What is it like? Tell me. Perifa. Stop your begging, Rodolfo snapped. And don't ask me again, or I will tell your father to make me late for school. And then you can forget a precious teacher's trip to the forest. What's wrong with Rodolfo? Was he jealous that it was Naftali's turn, or was he just ungrateful? When they reached the schoolyard, Rodolfo released his hands. Go to your classroom, and if you're thinking you're going to find your so-called nice father in his forest, you might be disappointed. So do not hope for too much. He turned and walked away with his head down and his hands in his pockets. As Naftali watched him go, he noticed that Rodolfo was slumping. 3 days later, Naftali opened his eyes in his faint light before sunrise. It was much too early to get it. He started studying, imagining all of the lights he could collect to bring him home to the forest. Then the crack his ceiling opened and let in the sky. He found himself lying in his bed beneath the enormous tree in the white straw. He got up, put on his boots, and marched around the tree, counting his steps to determine how many he could take the complete circle. 43, 44, 45. His bad market was gone, but no matter how many steps he took, he could not just break on the girdle of the shark to reach again. Finally, Naftali decided to leave the guaranteed tree, hoping to find a way over it. The branches would hear the father's voice. Naftali, did you wear your books all night long? Naftali dropped the books on the table, dropped the book tree into the bed. Father hovered over him, wearing a dark gray cape, one Naftali had never seen before. Naftali set up his boots on his feet. I wanted to be ready. He jumped to the floor and his heart beat anticipation. Slow down, said Father, laughing quietly. You have plenty of time. Get dressed and eat breakfast and wear something warm. The morning air will chill you. Naftali pointed to Father. The cape? Oh, yes. It's you. The company gave it to me for my service. The finest wool. When you're ready, meet me on the platform. He turned and marched the room. They keep blowing behind him. When Naftali around his kitchen, Rodolfo was ready to sitting at the table eating a mean marita. My mother noticed a picture in Naftali where another Another bread loaf from a slattered with jam. Sleepy-eyed Lolita wandered into the kitchen, dragging a rag doll. Mamatra picked her up and hugging her and sat on a chair. Then he handed her Natalie's bag. Bread, fruit, and cheese for later. It will be a long day. The train will be hungry. I wish I could go to the train, said Rosita. You're too little, said Natalie. You must be big like me, right, Rodolfo? Rodolfo saying nothing and looking at food. I was waiting till Lolita dribbled Jane on the left and Madre ushered from the kitchen to change his clothes that Rodolfo put down his voice and leaned forward. Naphtali, look at me and listen carefully. When you go with father, you must follow his orders. Do not get on the food into the ruckus. I did it once, and he made it send train all morning. And do not talk to workers, only they talk to you first. Otherwise, father will think you are keeping from their word. Other thing, and this is very important. Rodolfo leaned across the table and put his hand on Naphtali's arm. Are you listening? Naphtali nodded. Then he blew his whistle, got back to the train immediately, so he could not keep looking for you. That is where I made my mistake last week. Then it was a time to go, and he has searched for me. Then he found him is disobeying me. Hey, Rodolfo whined. I still have bruises. Do you understand? Do not want the father to catch you doing something wrong. Nathalie's heart sank to his stomach. What are you doing? For a few moments, Rodolfo gazed up, and Then he let go of Naphtali's arm, pushing himself away from school, and stood up. He took a few shaky steps toward the door, turned, and said, I was singing. Which is sharper, the hatchet that cut down dreams, or the scalpel that clears the path through another? Under a bale of stream, Naphtali turned on the chopping train drive through the rainforest. As he looked down the window, he thought carefully about Rodolfo's advice. On the outside, he had followed all of the father's instructions. He had worn to the wool sweater, and he sat at the front of the head next to the father. He had not fitted or drawn to the bench. He had not spoken to any workers or not drawn attention to himself. On the inside, he jumped up and down to the excitement. His stomach quivered. And he secretly kept pinching himself to make sure he was not dreaming. After several hours, the engine stopped. The sturdy man climbed from the train. Naphtali followed his father, stepping down in the word of the conference. His senses whirled, and he got giddy. He could not turn into his fast enough to absorb it all. Tiny needles of light piercing a canopy in the insane overgrowth of the plants and trees, the musty smell of giant mushrooms, the crisp freshness of pine, the sudden shrieks and flight of parrots. Father stood next to him, blowing his whistle and giving orders to men who set to work scaring stunned stubble. See, said father, those men shoveled rock in the woods, and those critics set crosswise to pot on their puddles. Then 2 men on the well each other and lift them and dump them back to the train cars. Another day, it will be a hard stretch of the track to become bolus and chanter and washed-out rails. Fascinated, Naphtali nodded and watched the men lift the horse and march into the train. Their bodies already glistened with perspiration. Stay nearby. I will sign up when you say for lunch. Father hurried down to the workers. Naphtali was grateful to explore alone. Reverently, He crept into the forest, but not far. Even just a short distance with the train, it was as if he were in a great diamond cathedral in a world without sky. He stopped every few steps, examining the novelist, the balance of gigantic forms, the luminous wings of insects, birds, feathers, and pods that dropped in the canopy. He caught his pockets full of strings and slippered of the porridge eggs. He overturned the dead limbs to find the holes where spiders slept. All morning Naphtali wandered, inhaling the stream of the wet leaves of wild birds and cinnamon. With a stick he cleared a slab of dead earth and he wrote on it. Slowly, he muttered the rose words of the trees, the lightning in the temperatures they played on his tongue. Kuchako Ruriti Lorina Luma Hiriba Kopihu Mapache Puma. Naphtali looked around so if that anyone was near. If Father Heleno see him, he could have thought absent-minded. He was doing something wrong? He smudged out words and kicked the leaf into place. He heard a rustling inside a rotting log to bend the beneath of the leaves. At first Naphtali jerked back. But then he bent closer to watch the hits. He had never seen a beetle so long fierce looking. He is a monster, no? He is a monster, no? Naphtali jumped to the voice. He looked up to see a father looming around him, and he blew his whistle, and Naphtali did not hurt, but father could not look angry. He is a rhinoceros beetle, said father. He is so strong that he can carry a log 800 times heavier than own weight. See these eyes? He used them to fly. He's a king. He patted Naphtali on his back. It will be a time for lunch soon. Come back to the train in a few minutes. Naphtali nodded and watched him walk away, struggling beneath of the jerky with the confidence of someone who owned the forest. Naphtali turned back to the beetle. How could something so small overcome and carry a burden so large? What magic did it possess? As he marveled at the beetle, the shell compounded and bulged, growing bigger and bigger. Its leg almost that until it was tall as a pony. Naphtali looked on in fascination. Two giant beady eyes looked back. A rhino's beetle moved closer. When it was inches from Naphtali, he held it on his front legs and water and hid his leg, and he worked the fur into one. Then he made a tiny squeak. Oddly unfeared, Naphtali climbed back to start it back and rode it back to the forest, hissing on the strange strength. What the least benefit Burando, bravado, and a black shining armor. I think this is a rhinoceros beetle. At lunch, Naphtali sat back to his father. He listened to the words his benefactor back and forth with good-natured teasing. Even father joined in. It was until he paused, pointed to the nearby tree, and whispered, "Shush." Naphtali turned in another beetle and the one shimmering rainbow. He sucked his breath. The living jewel! In wonder, they all sat still and quiet. Suddenly, a parrot whooped overhead, startling an insect. As an insect, the beetle became a flash of color and then disappeared. Father nudged him. "Your first day in the forest, you'll be such a thing. You have a luck." One of the men tossed a Naphtali tomato. "So, how do you like this life on a ball train?" Before Naphtali could answer, a father jabbed on his arm around his shoulder. He likes it fine, he said. After all, he is a real world son. Naphtali Naphtali his on. Naphtali looked around, grinding from ear to ear. So this is one another father. Will he be a conductor too? Asked another. Most definitely not, said father. He has a bigger plans. It will be a doctor or dentist. Naphtali looked at the father. A doctor or dentist? How if father would know Naphtali could become he when he did not know himself? 3. All afternoon, Naphtali explored the great fur dripping farther away from the train until they approached the toiling point of the small clearing. He looked at his hat and wondered what he had seen over the branches. Did it hide all of the secrets of the forest with dark notes? Did it know, too, what Naphtali would become? He swallowed the ground and the tree and sculpturing the pine cones and clues as tight as fists. He searched for another was one-bended, large and bulbous, and dotted with pearls on his sap. He carefully spun on his palm. The scale resembled a castle of Arrington wings. He turned upside down, laughing with both sense he considered its beauty. Then, in ingratitude, Naphtali gazed up at the great tree and he besought through such a treasure. Thank you, he whispered. Something moved in the branches. Naphtali carefully scanned West's lamp. There was nothing to a gentle movement of a pine needle and soft breeze. He kept posting and would set the movement again. An eagle sat on a limb high above the sand, looking around him. Naphtali was afraid to move, afraid to stir his it. He watched its turn head and appraising the forest preen its chest and shake it out with feathers. Then the will and elegance of the dancer, he lifted his wings and display of white underpines lifted into sky. Naphtali watched him. He could not no longer to see it. He could row. He could row round and sign. No longer return the eagles to pine cone. He longed to share that with a friend, someone who else was squeezed in excitement, someone he roamed right back to the tools. He might be able to talk without stammering. I felt like so much alien thing, like row, and he was like, yes, sorry. He wished it to his heart. He even dared to think that he was shared with father. He would wait until they rode the train home together. Father's work would be done by then, and it would be just two of them, side by side on the train. There would be always of Naphtali to tell them about Eagle and show him the pine cone. He smiled and walked away, clearing back through the forest until he heard the call. Choo, 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 cow. Choo, 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 cow. Choo, choo, cow. Choo, cow. Choo, 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 cow. The choo cow burrowed. Which direction was coming? If it called the right side, it means good luck and happiness. If it called on the left, it means bad and disappointments. And it never lied. Naphtali spun around, but now he was just confused and told nothing they where it was. Just in case, he quickly set the pine cone, removed his sweater, and put it back on. He retrieved the pine cone and listened. Choo, 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 cow. He heard us call again. It was time to restore the right. Good luck. Maybe even we'll wish for today close friends and father's affection. Naphtali grinned. As he turned, he saw the chicken bird flitting around the bird looked Renault branch to the top of the forest floor. He sang again. Rodolfo was right. He was just small, but no longer anything again that heard in the forest, except for father's whistle, which now is sounded a tricky signal. Naphtali had his son to the train, stopping by the peak of a furry caterpillar. Later, he was show up to his father and asking him identify it. Then he arranged the locomotive. Father, he, and the workers stood together, talking slowly. Naphtali approached and balanced all of the treasures. The man began to chuckle. The slowly wriggled around himself in front of pockets both. The stick the pearls to the back and the pockets along the trailing body, the small bird, and dropped leaves and sucked by the trail during the road. The pine cone had laid with one hand, and around they one and carefully with another. Now had men looked over spectacle. Naphtali saw father's cheek and with embarrassment. He sucked his breath over and round and father had drawn out and the attention to himself. Had been fantastic. How could father react to the shame? Quickly, he set his pine cone and the caterpillar of the nearby rock removed the contents and pockets and bird eggs, waxen leaves, and tip of a foxtail. He frozen his chains and vine to the pocket and chose him aside. He reached out the tossel of hair, dust of dove, and rained over him. The man howled with laughter. Father's tired face turned and frowned so. Enough nonsense. Everyone to the train. It's time to go. He turned and marched away. The Sally could not bear to leave the pine cone behind. He snatched up and toggled all over the sweater and climbed aboard and instead they would hold as possible to the window. A worker beside him, as if to say something, but before the man could open his mouth, Father bellowed, "Ignore the boy! He is an idiot!" The man gave Natalie a sympathetic nod and moved down to Hazel. When the train started, Naphtali waited for Father to come and sit with him, but he never did. All the way to Tomago, Naphtali stared out the window, hugged the pine cone, and wondered if, for the first time, the Chicalper had lied. At home, Naphtali started an altar of fine treasure until he found a place of honor and traded the orderly rose feathers, eggs, leaves, stones, nuts, pots, swings, and now his pine cone. Sitting central all of this, and each time Naphtali could share this back, he imagined certain creature might have been crossing if the sharken's path, a caterpillar bound and leave the snake to the toe and upon to the speed pod. Tired from a long day, he climbed back to his bed and closed his eyes. That night, the pine cone drove with him the far, far away to Tomago. What is the wisdom to eagle whispered to him was learning to fly? This is Eagle. Okay, everyone. So thank you for today. The Dreamer by Pam Minus, Lauren, and Peter Sis. Thank you for listening, everyone. See you next time. Bye.